All right, so I think this video is going to trigger some people, but that's okay. I'm not here to whisper sweet nothings to your ear and tell you what you want to hear, and that AI is going to save you and make your life so much better, and that if you make YouTube videos and content, you'll never have to work for a lead ever in your life. I'm not here to tell you all that bullshit. I'm here to tell you the truth, and my controversial, I'm assuming, opinion is that if you're a realtor and you don't know sales, you're not willing to learn sales, you should just give up. And this comes from, I'll start off by talking about the Nar lawsuit, right? So a lot of people got worried about the Nar lawsuit and how that would affect realtors, where if now all of a sudden we have to command commissions for buyers. Like, if you can't even, like, if that scares you because you can't commit your value to someone, what business are you running where you are scared to gain commitment from people to use your service? Like, that's what I don't understand, is that, and to be clear, a lot of these realtors who are doing huge amounts of deals every single year, they actually love these Nar lawsuits to happen to them. Because what it does for them is it weeds out the weak, right? Like this whole Darwinism thing, it's very apparent in all industries that a small portion of the realtors are eating up all the business. And that's what it's like in Ontario. You have a sample population of about 80 to 100,000 agents, depending on the month you're looking at it, and less than half of them are actually doing one or more deals per month. You know, majority of them aren't doing any deals whatsoever. So think about that type of market. No wonder everybody is scared, is because everybody sucks at their job, right? So these types of things are actually good for you. And tying this back to sales, why it's actually going to be a great thing for this to happen, and why you should just really give up on real estate is if you don't understand sales. It comes from the simple framework of that any business needs to have marketing, it needs to have sales, and then it needs to have product, or in our case as realtors, it's service, right? So we got to fix all these in order of priority. All right, number one being marketing, okay? Now, how do we handle marketing? Number one, you need to generate leads, okay? So two ways of generating leads that I think are worth doing in 2024 is, number one, you can generate leads online through Facebook ads or Google, or number two, you can start a TikTok, you can start a Reels, you can start somewhat of a brand on YouTube and whatever, and get leads coming in that way. Now, you've solved for marketing, great. How about sales, right? Once again, if you don't want to figure out sales, you are limiting your business. And to be clear, I get it. You can grow a business with very, very limited skill sets in sales. But at that point, why even get into real estate? Like, just go get a 9-to-5 job and make your $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. You'll be working 8 hours a day at least, not 12 like a realtor in most cases. You'll actually probably get to take vacations, you'll get to get the weekends off, and you'll make good money. Because a lot of times you think about real estate, you start calculating things like, oh, how can I make $150K a year, $200K a year? Well, look, after taxes, expenses, fees, all these things, you don't really keep that much of it. If you've actually done a full calendar year as a realtor, you would understand that. When a lot of people like us, even me, I say, make over $1 million in real estate, what really matters is how much of that did I keep. And the first year was amazing, the second year got worse, and the bigger we got, I started to realize, wow, the margins here aren't really that good. And to give you an idea, I've talked with a lot of the top 50 teams in Canada, and I've gone into rooms with them and spoken to them, and it's pretty common across the board that these teams operate anywhere between a 20 to a 35% margin. More of them on the lower side, in the low 20s. So if you are running a, say, like a $10 million a year business, which arguably like less than 1% of realtors are able to get to that level, if you're running a $10 million a year business, you're pocketing $2 million, right? And $2 million at the end of the day, that's a good amount for a small business, right? That's a good margin to have there. But what if you're making $100,000 a year, right? Or what if you're making like $500,000 a year and you're doing all this work just to keep $100,000? You're missing your kids' birthdays, you're missing all this. So my argument is, don't get into real estate if you don't want to learn sales, because the levels of real estate where you start to make the money that's worth it, in my opinion, is when you're doing beyond 400,000. If you're anywhere between that, 100,000 to 300,000 range, arguably there's a lot of lifestyle trade-offs that you have to make where I don't think it's worth it, and I think you're probably better off just getting a corporate job. Because if you're skilled enough to run a real estate business and manage yourself in all those areas, you're probably skilled enough to take on some type of corporate role where you can make $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year and have a way, way better lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, look, we're talking about money here, we're talking about business, but it doesn't matter how much money you make, because at some point money just really doesn't change your life that much anymore, and then you start to wonder, why am I doing all this in the first place? And then you go down to the rabbit hole, and obviously this comes from experiences. You know, what am I doing all this for? What's all this money for? I don't even get to spend time with my family, etc. So just cut the bullshit and don't do real estate unless you become great at it, right? Because it's not worth it to do otherwise. It's just a waste of your time. And realtors who don't want to learn sales, look, you use sales every day in your business. You use sales every day in your life. When you talk to your spouse, to your kids, you're in sales. When you talk to your prospects, you're in sales. When you're negotiating a contract for one of your clients with another realtor, you're in sales. And then being able to pause, listen, ask probing questions, diagnose, all these skill sets in sales that if you don't have it as a realtor, you're effectively not being as good as you could be for your clients if you were to learn sales. So if you're not going to learn sales, what is the point? Because I've learned this the hard way, where I tried to grow all of our businesses that me and Sagar have grown together without having to do sales. And I'll give you some personal experiences. I was that guy who was afraid to do sales. I hated sales. I didn't like talking to people. I labeled myself as shy. I said I'm an introvert. I'm the techie guy on the computer. Whoop-de-doo, poor me, I can't do this. So let me delegate sales to my business partner so I never have to do sales ever again. And it worked. We made several hundreds of thousands of dollars in our first year with him doing literally probably 90, like all the business, right? Essentially at the end of the day, I'm not gonna give you a number on it, but he was doing majority of the sales because I got to do what I was good at, which is marketing, tech, all those types of things. And then another year went by, and I started to realize that when I started book more showings, I couldn't just bring Sagar into book more showings too, because he was already doing sales in the residential business. So I was in this weird position where it was like life was confronting me and saying, William, if you want to actually grow book more showings, someone's got to do the sales, and it's going to have to be you. Right? And keep in mind, somebody who was afraid of the phone, all of a sudden going into high ticket sales, doing the setting and the closing. If you know anything about the high ticket sales industry, imagine being afraid of the phone and then going into a closing call. I was scared. Like, I had no clue what I was doing, but it was either a situation where I stayed where I was at and I only helped the clients that I could find in my own local market, or if I really wanted to take things bigger and help people at a higher scale, I would then have to learn sales. So of course, I told myself, I'm going to learn sales. So I did that. I learned sales, and I mean, clearly now we have a multi-seven-figure business running this type of operation at this point in time because I learned sales, right? And I share that story to you because you too, depending on how big your goals are, maybe you will never reach here because your goals aren't big enough, and that's fine, enjoy it. But if your goals are really, really big, like if you want to make millions of dollars, if you want to make tens of millions of dollars, at some point, you're going to need to have a basic understanding of sales, okay? What I mean by basic understanding is that you're going to have to know how sales is done, because when you grow a big enough team, there will be a sales department, and you're going to have to delegate the management of that sales department to somebody else. But how can you delegate something that you don't even know? You can't. You just have to trust that the person is doing their job. And if you're going to just grow a business by trusting that the people you hire know what they're doing and you just blanket put your trust in them, that's a risky business. I wouldn't go ahead and do that. I think the best operators are people who at least understand the basics of all the departments that they delegate within so that they can do their job very, very well and what they're great at. So tying back once again to doing sales in real estate, every single client that we work with who does a tremendous job, either they had a background in sales or they learned how to get really, really good at sales. So all of these people combined, they are the ones who end up having the best testimonials. They're my favorite clients that I want to work with. When somebody comes in, they tell me they're in car sales or they have 5 years sales experience, I just know they're about to crush it, because you give them leads and they will figure out how to somehow close the leads, right? And I really do believe that if you're a realtor and you don't want to learn sales, you are going to be limited by whatever leads your team gives you. You're going to be limited by the amount of leads that you can handle, because so many of them you just cannot connect with. Some of you may know about the 4 types of buyers, that there are people who are analytical, there are people who are more sociable, amiable, there are people who are more creative style, there are people who are very controller types. And you got to learn how to communicate with all these people because they're essentially like different languages. But some people don't even know how to speak one of them. And then they end up doing business with a very small pool of people, because if you're a sociable person and the only people you can sell are sociable people, then you're limiting the market to saying that out of 100 people in the market, if it was split evenly into 4 different groups of categories of buyers, I effectively cannot work and sell and make money off 75% of the market because I'm only good enough at sales to work with 25% of the market. So therefore, I'm going to limit my income by 75% because I am not good at sales. That's what you sound like when you do not want to learn sales in the real estate industry. And the people who make all the money are people who are saying, I'm willing to get good at sales. I'm willing how to learn to talk with everybody. I'm willing to how to learn how to, build rapport, do the right introduction, understand their situation, probe and understand the why of what they're looking for in a house. If you don't even want to get into that details, don't set big goals. It's not worth it. I promise you. You're better off just doing a normal corporate job where you can make 80,000 a year or 100,000 a year, hopefully, by not having to talk with anyone. And I get it. The world that we're in, it's hard. Finding money isn't as easy as it probably was 10 years ago. I'm not really sure. I'm not that old. But I just think that if you're not willing to learn sales, you're just wasting your time in real estate. You're probably better off doing something else. And then the ironic thing is a lot of these people who are better off at doing something else, not by choice, will end up doing something else because it just is a better decision, like I'm saying. Like, think about it, guys. With all the expenses you're paying in real estate, the BS you go through, if you're a realtor, you know the BS we go through. I have crazy stories, and I'm sure you do too. It is not worth it for 100 grand take home. You can't pay yourself the lifestyle you're trying to live with that type of money. Who are you kidding? Learn sales. That's all I have to say.